Throughout all of Red Dead Redemption 2, your honor shifts depending on the choices you make throughout the game. But what I've always wondered is this how Arthur views himself from the outside? Or is honor directly related to the Van der Linde gang's code? Before we get into it, I will not be talking about John in this video at all. From a gameplay standpoint, Arthur and John hold the same morals, meaning there's no reason to talk about him. For this video, we're also assuming Good Honor Arthur is the canon ending. Why? Because the way I see it, since there's only special missions correlating to Good Honor, that means it has to be the canon ending. Arthur Morgan is the lead protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2, but you already know that. What you may not have known is that Arthur's very low self-esteem. If you go into the Valentine Hotel, anywhere between Chapter 2 to Chapter 6, Arthur has the option to talk to himself in the mirror. Doing this will reveal some dialogue that's very telling about himself.
You ugly bastard. You're getting old. Old and kinda sad. No wonder they all leave you, you sour-faced idiot. You ain't fooling no one.
This goes one step further since the gang seems to think he lacks intelligence, when in reality, he just keeps to himself. Here's an example of Hosea calling Arthur dumb.
The Indians in these parts got sold a very raw deal. They lost it all. Stolen clean away from them it was, every blade of grass. Killed or herded up to the reservations in the middle of nowhere. I just heard some of the army out here was particularly unpleasant about it.
Unpleasant? How do you rob and kill people pleasantly?
I fear I was perhaps trying to simplify something more complicated for the benefit of our block-headed driver here.
Arthur also has a traumatic past. He had a wife named Eliza and a son named Isaac, but they were both killed by bandits for $10. This will be important later. We don't know much about Arthur's childhood, but we do know he watched his father, Lyle Morgan, get hanged. Arthur joined the Van der Linde gang when he was about 15 years old, and stayed in it his entire life. Dutch Van der Linde and Hosea Matthews basically raised him. But how did this affect Arthur as a person? Since Arthur joined the Van der Linde gang so early on, his morals are entirely based on what the gang's beliefs are. But what are they? This is the beliefs of the Van der Linde gang. Rob the rich, feed and give to the poor, do your share of work, don't snitch, and disrespect the man. Let's break some of these down for you. Rob the rich and feed the poor. In Arthur's tent, you can find his first robbery in a newspaper clipping. They came around the counter and grabbed some sacks, which contained $5,000 in gold. The robbers lingered in town, and there are unproven claims that the men traveled to hovels and shanties, and even a home for orphans, and gave handfuls of the ill-gotten gains to the poor. This was Arthur's first robbery with the gang, which happened April 15th, 1887, meaning that Arthur has followed this code for at least 12 years up to when the player takes control. Disrespect the man is the other more important one to focus on. The gang despises the idea of living in a land of laws, and there's a lot of things to back this up. The gang is okay robbing people like Leviticus Cornwall because they're robber barons. If you don't know what a robber baron is, they were basically the CEOs of the 1800s. They would be depicted to be of large stature because of their wealth, and they would supposedly exploit their workers. Obviously, exponential wealth and exploitation are both things that the gang disagree with, but who else does the gang dislike?
Okay, ladies, let's get out of here.
Calm down, Mr. Morgan. That's quite a cough.
The Pinkertons. In the mission, A Fisher of Men, Arthur meets Agent Milton from the Pinkerton Detective Agency, who is looking for Dutch Van der Linde, the leader of the gang. Arthur obviously doesn't say where Dutch is, because one of the gang's rules is no snitching, but he also has this to say to Milton.
Bring in Van der Linde. You have my word, you won't swing.
Oh, I ain't gonna swing anyways, Agent.
Milton.
You see, I haven't done anything wrong, aside from not playing the games to your rules.
This is clearly echoing things Dutch has said to Arthur. So now that we've talked about the backstory of Arthur Morgan and the rules of the Van der Linde gang, we're going to move to what made me want to make this video in the first place: gameplay. The honor bar moves back and forth depending on what deeds you have done, good or bad. But with what we've talked about, I want to ask you, who Who decides what is good and what is bad? Is it Arthur himself, the gang's code, or a mixture of both? In the mission Urban Pleasures, if you shoot the postal worker, Dutch will say,
That is not what we do, damn it! You know that!
This shows not only that Arthur can go against the code, but it also shows the gang's ideals, or Dutch's ideals, are an important factor towards honor. I forgot to mention something earlier. There's one thing more important than morality to Arthur, and that thing is survival. As previously stated, Arthur can lose honor during a mission for doing something bad, but not always. In any circumstance where he would die, Arthur sees it morally acceptable to shoot his way out of any situation. Here are a few examples. In Blessed Are the Meek, Arthur does not get bad honor for shooting up Strawberry. In Our Best Selves, Arthur can shoot lawmen and their horses and not lose honor. In A Short Walk in a Pretty Town, Arthur shoots his way through lawmen attacking him and does not lose honor. But anyways, let's get back to gameplay. There are certain one-time robberies you can do that don't lose you honor. And this is where things start to confuse me. The gang robs big companies and gives money to the poor as well, but why doesn't this give us bad honor? This store is clearly just owned by the shopkeeper. If you rob the main floor, you get bad honor. Robbing the basement when he says,
I'm just trying to make ends meet. It ain't like Strawberry's full of big spenders.
It's not like he's doing anything horrible, and it's not like Arthur has done worse from both an Arthur perspective and a gang perspective. Why doesn't this give us bad honor? Leave a comment if you think you know why. Also, the man is literally disabled, so how can we say for sure what controls the honor bar? Let's move to chapter 6, because there's a lot of stuff that happens there. Molly supposedly snitches, John is in prison, and Dutch acts against the gang's code constantly. But Arthur decides to be good all the way down, saving John when Dutch wouldn't, and helping people in need even when he doesn't have to. The biggest problem in chapter 6 is that, while Arthur believes in the gang's code, others have higher priorities, which would be survival and loyalty. Dutch gets on Arthur's last nerve when him and Micah agree that they're just going to let Abigail, who is kidnapped by Agent Milton, die.
They came and took Abigail. I saved Jack. We hid, but they took Abigail.
Who did?
Agent Milton and his men took her to Van Horn to be put on a boat and tried for murder.
I am sorry to hear that.
We gotta let her go. John's, well, sorry, son. Without John, she's just bait. We got a bunch of money, Dutch. She's just a girl. They won't do nothing to her.
But
Me and the boys know.
Yep.
We need to keep riding on this one, Dutch. You know it. Every man here knows
We
it.
just gonna let the boy be made an orphan?
it ain't like that.
What is it like?
I wanna live, cowpoke. I still got the choice. Dutch, it's just a girl.
You're right. Micah, it pains me to say it, Arthur, but he's right.
Touch!
Come on, boys.
Arthur's wife and son died for money. Then the gang died because of Dutch's greed. So Arthur decides to save Abigail because he was raised not only to not leave people behind, but also because it's the morally right thing to do when it's someone you care about. At this point, we know for sure that it's the gang's ideals and Arthur's past that decides when your honor goes up or down. But by the gang ideals, I mean like the early years of the gang, when Arthur was a kid. Thanks for watching this video. It is something different from my normal content, but it was a lot of fun to make. If you haven't already, you should subscribe and leave a comment about what you thought about this video. And see you in the next one.